Federal government flags off Deep Blue Marine Security Project just as President Buhari inaugurates Lagos-Ibadan Rail Project. Central Bank of Nigeria to unveil digital naira this year. Decade of gas, federal government inaugurates committee to develop roadmap. Gold hovers near $1,900 an ounce as dollar yields deep after U.S. data. Details of this and more on Business Express on the network service of the NTA. We're reaching you live from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Musa Abubakar. Now let's begin with marine security. The Integrated National Security and Waterways Protection Infrastructure, otherwise referred to as Deep Blue Project, has been inaugurated by President Muhammadu Buhari. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that this is in furtherance of his administration's renewed commitment towards enhancing the safety and security in the nation's maritime domain and the Gulf of Guinea for economic development.
This intervention, no doubt, will facilitate a conducive environment for the maritime sector to thrive and contribute to the diversification of the Nigerian economy.
The project is the final piece of our strategy for combating the menace of piracy and sea robbery in not just our waters, but also in the Gulf of Guinea.
The aim is to stabilize and increase economic activities in this environment with a view to reclaiming the huge foreign exchange that is hitherto been lost to piracy in the Nigerian maritime environment.
Mr. President, when we took over, we were number 3 in the world in maritime security. Now we are number 1.
Meanwhile, the federal ministries of transportation and finance have been directed to vigorously engage and reach financial agreements with appropriate co-financers that will partner the federal government for the development of the Ibadan-Kano Railway. President Muhammadu Buhari, who gave the directive, also insists that the agreement must include the connection of the vital infrastructure to the Tinkan Island port and the west-east coastal rail line from Lagos to Calabar. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that this was while inaugurating the Lagos-Ibadan Railway and the flagging of commercial operations at the Mobolaji Johnson Railway Station, Ibute Meta, Lagos.
Beginning of this administration, railway infrastructure development has been given the priority it deserves, and various milestones have been reached. This vital line establishes an end-to-end logistics supply chain in railway transport within its short corridor. Lagos, Ibadan, as good to the hinterland, will now be transported by rail directly from the Apapa Port, quayside, straight to the inland container depot located in Ibadan, from where it can be distributed to other parts of the country.
Now entering a new golden age of rail travel in Nigeria under the watch of Mr. President, President Muhammadu Buhari, and Lagos, Ogun, and Oyo are excited to be part of this. We look forward to reaping the full benefits of this project in the months and the years ahead.
This occasion is the 3rd time Mr. President is commissioning a standard gauge railway infrastructure project. completed and delivered under his watch. Indeed, all of us who will use this track now and in the future are grateful for your support and your determination, even against criticism of the fact that we're taking loans to build this. You are determined to complete this project.
A roadmap and action plan, the people's expectations of a gas-powered economy by 2030 will not be allowed to derail. Minister of State Petroleum Resources Timipri Silva made this commitment at the 4th edition of Nigeria International Petroleum Summit, set to ensure a seamless process. A 3-tier steering committee was inaugurated to develop a clear roadmap and submit a report within 8 weeks. Lydia Sampson reports.
Timipri Silva says he's tired of repeated words without action. Naturally, therefore, he called for a more action-packed resolution with defined, detailed activities with timelines.
Nigeria's natural gas reserves stand at 203 TCF, with potential touted to be 600 TCF. So what? Personally, I'm tired of reeling out these statistics. To this end, I expect this session to be more action-packed, action-oriented.
The panel discussion also identified discovery from policymakers and eminent industry players.
This summit should certainly provide a framework within which government and stakeholders can design operations in a way that will enable us to maintain the quality of our interventions.
The Department of Petroleum Resources had announced that as of January this year, Nigeria gas reserve grew to 206.53 trillion standard cubic feet of gas.
Growth in the oil and gas sector in Nigeria is inevitable. And this can only happen when we work together for the national economic development, we have stability in the growth of the industry, and we have partnership and investment.
With focus on gas monetization, experts had continued to x-ray global implication of gas revolution and what it means for Nigeria.
And now to shed light on how Nigeria can further leverage in the energy sector in post-COVID-19 era, we have joining us via Zoom from Congo-Brazzaville, the Secretary General of the African Petroleum Producers Organization, Dr. Umar Farouk Ibrahim. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a renewed vigor by Nigeria and other members of the African Petroleum Producers Association to develop regional oil and gas investments and negotiate the COP21 climate change agreement. What is the position of the association?
Well, this is something that APO member countries have come to believe, that given the developments on the international energy scene, especially since 2015, when a number of countries, including ours, went and signed the Paris Climate Change Agreement, the aggressive pursuit of renewable is posing a great challenge to the hydrocarbon industry. And as you all know, the hydrocarbon industry is essentially very capital intensive, technologically driven, and also the manpower requirements are very, very sophisticated. These are three challenges that individually APO member countries cannot really surmount that easily. But when we come together, we will be able to do this. Because seriously, if we don't do anything about this, in the next few years, we shall be left with billions. Currently, we have about 100 billion barrels of oil in our grounds, and we shall be left with it as stranded asset. So we've come to the realization that to be able to make the best use of this resource, we need to come together, pool our resources together in order to make the best for our countries and our peoples.
Okay, can countries like Nigeria survive without fossil fuel?
Of course, Nigeria can survive without fossil fuels. But the point is, if you have it, why leave it stranded? You're good. The thing is, for so long, many African oil exporting countries have become too dependent on it. And you can't make progress really if you don't succeed in weaning yourselves away from it. If anybody tells you that no country can survive without oil, I think that person is just building a trap for you. But at what cost? That is the question. We need to be able to work hard to be able to live without oil money. And whether we like it or not, the world is moving in that direction.
Okay.
In the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years max,
okay,
we don't see the world moving or dealing as much with hydrocarbons.
Okay.
So we need to bring out, monetize as much as we can of what we have today and use it to diversify our economies so that we can catch up with the rest of the world.
Okay, now, developing local content in the industry has continued to dominate discussions in the sector. Are we doing enough?
Well, the level of development of local content on the African continent is really very varied. Some countries are doing very well. Nigeria is a very good example. Between 2010 and 2021, a matter of 11 years, Nigeria's local content has grown from just 5% to over 20%, 35% actually this year. And I understand the target for the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board is 70% by 2027. What this means is that as a country, Nigeria has gone very far in trying to domesticate the oil industry. But you can't say the same thing about many other African countries. And we believe that if we come together, instead of looking at these things as national local contents, we look at it as an African content. And we decide that, look, this is very capital intensive business. You can't have local content in Nigeria, in Niger, in Benin. No. Look at it in terms of the various sub-regions of the continent and see what can you do together to ensure that you control the oil and gas industry in that sub-region. For example, petrochemical plants. There is no way countries like Benin Republic or Chad or Niger can really establish a very solid petrochemical industry. Yet they need the products of petrochemicals. So if you can get a big petrochemical industry in Nigeria or around this sub-region that services these countries, and then go to the East African sub-region, Central Africa, and North, when you are able to do this, then you'll be able to elongate the lifespan of oil and gas. If not, in the next 2 decades or so, you will have billions of barrels in the ground and you'll not get a market for it, and you'll not be able to use it even for your own people.
Now, before I let you go, with the AFCFTA, what are the opportunities now available in the industry and how can they be made viable?
I think the AFCFTA is a very big opportunity for Africans to really integrate their markets. What we are really looking at today really is beyond just trading. We want to be able to integrate our markets. We want to be able to integrate our production system. Like I was telling you that we need, for example, it's the challenges of Africa today is we all produce about the same thing that we import virtually everything. Nigeria produces, to a large extent, Nigeria is somehow different, but a number of African countries, what you need is exactly what other countries are, what you produce is exactly what your neighbors are producing. So there isn't that synergy that we take from you what we need, and you take from us what you need.
Okay.
And the reason is that there isn't a coordinated effort on the part of the Africans to come together and say, what does the continent need? And how best are we going to be able to produce this irrespective, and forget national boundaries. Okay, Europe, they do that.
Okay.
America really is not one country. 51 countries are there, but today everybody sees America as one country. Why can't we begin to see our continent as in the same light?
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, the Secretary General of the African Petroleum Producers Organization, Dr. Umar Farouk Ibrahim.
Thank you.
Oil prices slipped on Friday, but were set for their third weekly rise on expectations for a recovery in fuel demand in Europe, China, and the United States, as rising vaccination rates lead to an easing of pandemic curbs. Brent crude futures fell 23 cents to $72.29 a barrel, reversing most of Thursday's climb to its highest close since May 2019. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures slipped 22 cents to $70.07 a barrel, after climbing 0.5% on Thursday to its highest close since October 2018. Brent is set for a gain of 0.5% this week, while WTI is set to climb 0.6%. Now, gold prices hovered near the key $1,900 per ounce level on Friday, helped by a weaker dollar and U.S. bond yields, as investors shook off data that showed a rise in U.S. inflation and hoped the Federal Reserve would not change its dovish stance. Now, mechanisms to ensure that civil servants live a better life after service has been worked out by the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. David Ire reports that to this end, the office has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Bank of Agriculture and the Public Service Institute on the provision of entrepreneurship program for the workers.
Agribusiness has a very wide value chain, so it doesn't have to be tilling of the land alone. You can think of whatever stage of the value chain that you are interested in and start early.
The land for the demonstration farm will be provided by the Public Service Institute. In other words, after the hands-on, after the theoretical classroom training, depending on the area of agriculture that you're interested in, there's need to now go to the field and see how you need to operate.
The issue of the amount of money a worker can get is determined by the labor law, that you must not take more than so percentage of your income. The proceed of the farm also could be used for the repayment. So we'll look at the two and put them together and see. That will determine how much you can go.
The Central Bank of Nigeria says it will soon unveil a digital currency. CBN's Director of Information Technology Department, Rekia Mohammed, stated this at the end of the 306th Bankers Committee meeting. She said the digital currency will be accessible to all Nigerians, adding that the pilot scheme being carried out in the last 2 years will be unveiled before the end of the year. Central bank digital currencies are electronic versions of fiat money issued by central banks and backed by the reserves of the issuing countries. Now let's now see how much the Naira is exchanging for other currencies. In support of federal government's employment generation policy to curb youth restiveness, the House of Representatives has passed second reading a bill to facilitate implementation of the Federal Entrepreneurship Centers. The Federal Entrepreneurship Centers Establishment Bill seeks investment in community projects for the benefit of young Nigerians. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports on this and other considerations at House plenary Thursday.
The project is designed to term as a game changer in providing training strategies and certification programs that will assist young Nigerians to embrace micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises as an alternative to an employment option.
As part of activities marking Nigeria at 60, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment Adeniyi Adebayo says the event, which is scheduled to hold from June 15 to 19th, will feature a 5-day exhibition of made-in Nigerian products and live performances of cultural troupes through the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. NECA reports that the event will also feature essay competition and national award.
Small and medium enterprises in Nigeria have contributed about 48% of the national GDP in the last 5 years. With a total of about 17.4 million, they account for about 50% of industrial jobs and nearly 90% of the manufacturing sector. The exhibition of made in Nigeria products will therefore further reveal the tremendous potential that abound in our quest for self-sufficiency and self-reliance.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, has charged the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Tribunal to protect Nigerians, particularly consumers, from unfair business practices. The SGF gave the charge when he received members of the tribunal in Abuja.
We've not deepened that culture of ensuring that whatever is given to a person for which he pays for must meet certain standards, and the prices should not be prohibitive. We are charting a new course and trading a new territory.
Asia Pacific Stocks Mix has S&P 500 sales to record close on Wall Street. Enega Oko has details.
Global markets extended a record high Friday as U.S. Treasuries were steady amid growing confidence that inflation will prove transitory. Stocks in Asia were mixed, with the Nikkei 225 closing marginally lower at 28,948.73. The Shanghai Composite fell 0.58% to 3,589.75, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index advanced 0.36%. European markets received a strong handover from Asia as stocks were fractionally higher on Friday. Germany's DAX added 0.9% in early trade, London's FTSE 0.52%, and CAC 40 of France 0.43%. U.S. stock indices on their own part were flat after the S&P 500 hit a new high during regular trading despite hotter than expected inflation data. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 21 points, S&P 500 and Nasdaq 100 were close to flat. And back here in Africa, markets were weak in early start, leaving most stocks struggling for gains, while South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 and Tunisia's Tunidex declined fractionally. That's Global Markets. I'm Neka Oko.
Well, thank you, Neka. This is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. Business Express returns Monday at 3 p.m. I am Musa Abubakar saying keep thinking and doing business.